Good morning, everyone. My name is Corrigan Amadi, and I spent the summer designing ferroshims to improve magnetic field homogeneity at 3.4 Tesla. So the reason why is because for high resolution magnetic resonance experiments, a high homogeneity magnet is required. Our current magnet is at 10 ppm, which is pretty bad for high resolution. That was measured over a 1 centimeter diameter by a 1 centimeter tall cylinder, which, as my collaborator Janelle mentioned, is about the size of the sample contained. To improve the homogeneity, a set of ferroshims could be built, and high homogeneity is indispensable because most experiments using this magnet wouldn't even produce usable data in a 10 ppm field. And as you can see in figure 1, the black line represents an unshimmed magnet versus the red line is shimmed. And you can tell the peak that you get, which is a signal, is much more precise and accurate, whereas the black line is very wide and unclear. So why ferroshims and what are they? Ferroshimming employs ferrous metals to compensate field homogeneity by affecting the magnetic field lines. And as you can see in figure 3, at the center of this coil, which is an example of a magnet, the field lines are very close and uniform. But as they travel along the length of this magnet, they diverge and separate, and that leads to inhomogeneity. Now, ferroshimming is preferred to other methods because cost and complexity wise, it's much simpler to methods that Janelle mentioned. With field mapping, it's a method used to characterize a magnetic field inside a magnet, and it's typically done around the shape of a cylinder because cylinders are symmetrical along the z-axis. So, as you travel in a helical path, the only variance is along the length, as you can see in this example of a magnet. Now, the location and dimension of the shims are extremely critical, as you can see in figure 4. The graph paper has extremely close together lines, and the steel that is placed there is in varying shapes, sizes, and thicknesses. This project wasn't just about shims, though, because in order to apply these shims to a magnet and get the magnet's inhomogeneity down from 10 ppm to 1 to 3 ppm, we needed a way to hold the sample, a way to hold the shims while they're inside of the magnet, and a way to keep the parts connected symmetrically. With respect to the fact that each part must be non-ferrous because it would affect the magnetic field, it had to have a high resistance to cryogenic temperatures because these experiments are generally carried out around 4 Kelvin. And they had to have very small, precise dimensions because the opening in the center of the magnet is only 62 millimeters. And as you can see in figure 5 and figure 6, these are very sharp, precise, hard materials, and this became a super iterative process as new techniques, information, and complications arose in my process of designs. I'd also like to point out a little fun fact that as we progress these slides, the backgrounds are actually some real drawings that I made in order to get these parts machined. We didn't ultimately get to make shims because there was a complication in the magnet. But aside from that, we realized that it was crucial that for a sample to be placed seamlessly in and out of the magnet without changing the position of the shims, we had to design a tube that could be left inside of the magnet with the form attached, as you can see in figure 7, so that it stays in one position and the iron shims that go around it never move. Which, just to clear things up, shim is just a term to describe a piece of metal that's used to wedge a gap, fix something, make something more precise. Figure 8 shows this probe, the sample container, and the form fully attached to what would be going all the way inside the magnet when samples or when experiments are being conducted. And in summary, improving this magnet's field will enable more impactful experiments to be conducted at the MagLab. Most of the work to build these ferroshims is already done. And although the mapping and ferroshims are halted, this work will still be continued by myself or others at the MagLab in the future. And once the magnet's fixed, we can evaluate what worked, what didn't, and conduct further testing. Thank you.